any candidates out there that are really floating your boat these days? Like, is there a guy? I think that's kind of our big issue here is there's not the guy. Like, and I know it didn't work out, but Chris Mack was the guy. Like, it was very apparent. Jeff Brom was the guy. Is there a this person here is the number one? Like, this is the fit right here.
I mean, I would love like a Scott Drew. I think he makes so much sense. His buyout's not crazy. Coming from Baylor to Louisville is a natural upgrade. Facilities, well, not attendance right now. Attendance in the future when they're good. The recruiting ability, the money he can make there. I mean, I think that makes sense. And Scott Drew took a Baylor program that was second to last in the Big 12 every year, and they've won a national championship. They're now a perennial top 10 team every single year. So in my mind, he's a perfect fit. I don't know what that interest level is there because he's kind of got them rocking and rolling. They're always top 15. I think he's got a job at Baylor for the rest of his life as long as he wants it. So that would make sense to me. I would love a Nate Oates. I love that style of play, that up and down, run and gun, spread it out, shoot threes, dunk the basketball, kind of the way the game is going. He recruits well. So, I mean, I think there are a couple of guys. I know a lot of people have spoken about Mick Cronin, which I think would be a fine hire. I would not be upset by that hire, but I know he's got a $24 million buyout. And if we're balking at the idea of spending $8 million to get rid of Kenny right now, I don't know who's gonna step up and be like, yes, I'll get us 24 million. So I think to me, Scott Drew is my number one right now, but at this point, I'd be happy with anybody.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think that Scott Drew makes a lot of sense. And I think people will kind of say, like, why would he come to Louisville? But if you go back 2 years ago, Louisville talked to him, or there was some interest there potentially between the two programs before Louisville settled on Kenny Payne. And then last year, he flirted with Georgia, which was really interesting. Ultimately, they hired Mike White. But that's not a job that you would necessarily think Scott Drew would have any business leaving Baylor for. But yeah, he's a great hire. And really, here's my thoughts on this. Okay. I think that the next hire has to check four boxes, four very specific boxes in terms of this candidate has to have at least three, if not all of them. Okay. Number one being they have to have they have to be a splashy hire. They have to come with some form of name brand recognition, right? Louisville can't go out and hire a Pat Kelsey from Charleston right now. Like, they're not in the position to do that. Is that a good hire? Potentially. Is Steve Forbes a good hire? Potentially. But that's not the hire that Louisville wants from a fan base, right? So there needs to be that name brand recognition. Two, they need to be a proven winner. This can't be a one and done type of thing, right? I think some of the concerns with Jerome Tang is he was only an assistant. He was an assistant for forever, has been a head coach for what, 3 years, has one good team that he didn't necessarily recruit all of. And things kind of came together with that tournament run versus a guy like a Scott Drew who has a national championship, who has Final Fours, a guy like Dusty May who has a top 10 basketball team, who has a Final Four, who has, slowly started to show he's one of the top names in college basketball. What about a Jay Wright? All of those guys kind of fit that. The third being they've got to be affordable. Louisville is not paying a $24 million buyout. I would love to bring Mick Cronin back to Louisville, but there's no chance that that's happening unless he's winning championships every year, right? Like, you don't pay that buyout. You sink your program making that buyout payment. And then finally, the last one is, can they flip the team through the portal? Yeah, that's got to be just as much of a consideration as anything else, Jake. Can they flip the team in a 1 year situation through the portal? I believe this team is, if they can keep some of these pieces, this team can easily be built up to be a top 25 basketball team starting next season. With the right coach who brings in guys from his own team and then some lower level, non-power five, non-power school transfers via the portal, I think they can do that. So I need a coach who can check all four of those. To me, Scott Drew. That's where it starts and that's where it ends. I am willing to entertain the idea of Chris Beard, but I need I need some proof that legal issue is that there was something there, like that was it, whatever the case is, that shows he was innocent. Outside of that, you cannot mess with that because you simply cannot afford to have that come back up in 2 or 3 years. So what do you think about those four boxes? Do you think there is a hire out there that fits all four of those? Or do you think that Louisville's going to have to kind of sacrifice some of that to get the guy that they want in that position?
I mean, like we both agreed to it. Great minds think alike. I think Scott Drew meets all those boxes. I can't remember exactly what your boxes were, but I know, I mean, splashy hire for sure. Everyone who knows college basketball knows Scott Drew. I don't know what his buyout is, but I know it's not 24 million like Mick Cronin's is.
Yeah.
Inability, he's recruiting really well already. Transfer portal, I know he's not like as big into. He's not like an Eric Musselman or anything where he's ripping in 8 new transfers every single season. But I mean, to me, I think that's the guy that checks all the
Yeah.
boxes
He
and a
does well
proven
in
winner for
yeah,
sure.
he does well in the portal, man. Just looking at his roster
Mhm.
right now, they have several guys that their roster makeup is something that I think Louisville fans like it would be really happy with is what Scott Drew does there, right? So he's got a guy like Jacoby Walter, who's a 5-star guard, one of the best players in the Big 12 already as a freshman. Then he's got transfers in Ray J. Dennis, who came over from Toledo last year. Jalen Bridges has been there for a couple of years, but he played at West Virginia. They have guys like Caleb Lawner who played at BYU that play these kind of secondary and tertiary roles. And then they have these hidden gems like Yevs Missy is their starting center this year, going to likely be a top 15 pick. I'd never heard of this dude before. I have no, I until just the last couple of weeks, but he's a double on a nightly basis as a freshman. Jonathan Tachua, I'm never going to pronounce that right, but they have these guys who just like, it's like just the roster is perfect and how it meshes and how they play his style. I think he is everything that Louisville fans want. If Jay Wright says no, I think you have to make that call. Do you agree? You have to make that call.
I mean, you have to make the call. I think it's a dream that most likely will not come true, but I mean, you have to make the call. I think I was listening to Rutherford's radio show last week, 2 weeks ago. He talked about Scott Drew as one of the guys, Mick as one of the guys, and then he said that he had heard about an SEC coach. He wasn't specific on which SEC coach, but I mean, Chris Beard, Nato, Eric Musselman, those would all be great hires. Chris Beard, obviously, pending some legal issues. I don't think you can take that black eye again with a program that's gotten in trouble 3 times in the past decade. You can't take that black eye. So unless he gets some clarity on his legal situation, I really don't think that's a guy you can touch. But I mean, a NATO to Scott Drew, someone like that, I think would be perfect.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not a bit as big of a fan of NATO. It's just specifically with how he kind of handled that situation last year.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things where if they're again, if you feel comfortable, if the AD is making that hire, like a guy like Josh Hurd, we know the homework has been done and all of that's there. One last name, I just want to throw this out there, and I know I mentioned splashy name hire, but and being really like Louisville and flexing that Power Five muscle and being able to say we are a blue blood, we can go out, we can hire a championship coach. Say that doesn't happen, right? And we see sometimes that when schools go through coaches, it can be difficult to make that third, fourth hire. If there is a name that I can interest you in that is lesser known, but has a resume that is extremely impressive and has got a top 15 team right now, would you be interested in that?
I'm interested in what you're selling.
Nico Medved. He is the head coach at Colorado State. They are one
Okay.
of the best teams in the country that you have not heard about this year. They have got a potential All-American in Isaiah Stevens. This is a team that is rocking and rolling. They are coming off of an NCAA tournament appearance just 2 years ago. Last year kind of had a down year. Right now they're sitting at 12-1. He's 169 and 104 at Colorado State. Had been at Drake and Furman previously. He's a name that again not going to go up there with the Scott Drews, but just one to consider when you're talking about potentially a sneaky coaching hire who's shown success everywhere he's gone of establishing a culture, being able to turn things around quickly. Just throwing that out there for shits and giggles. Any
Yeah, no, I
closing
mean,
thoughts on the coaching hire or anything like that?
I think at this point I'll be happy not with just anybody, but I mean, I think the fans will just be happy getting a guy that we has a proven track record. Because I mean, Kenny, everyone was excited about it. I was a little excited about it. I know he didn't have the coaching experience necessary, and I think that's where we went wrong. You can't come to a Louisville with no experience of leading a program of this caliber. So I think as long as we just get a guy with a proven track record, whether that is your boy Nico or Nate Oates or whoever it is, Scott Drew, I think that's a big thing. It can't be like you said. Oh, maybe he'll do good. He took Furman to the second round of the tournament. Like, it can't be anything like that. So I think biggest thing is proven track record, and I think that'll make the fans happy, even if it's not a huge splash name. I think fans will still rally around it.
Yeah, I think ultimately they're going to end up with a pretty splashy hire. I would think they're Louisville. That's just
Mhm.
I don't want to downplay that part of it. Like they are blue blood. They have a national championship in the last 10 years. the resources are there from an NIL standpoint, from a building standpoint, from a facility standpoint. They absolutely can get it rocking and rolling and go out and hire a big name coach. I really do believe that.